My big brother Bernard took great pains to learn how to talk black. Street black, prophet black, angry black, which wasn't something you heard a lot of where we grew up. It started when his voice suddenly changed. One day he spoke in the smooth tenor treble of a choir boy angel, and the next he possessed the devilish bass of Barry White. Once he was blessed with that depth, Bernie culled some of the diction from our father's brilliant friend, Professor Lester Wright, and he pulled the rest from Public Enemy. The result was stunning. It pissed off our mom. "Talk like yourself, Bernie, please," she'd say. If he was in a good mood, he'd touch the fingertips of one hand against the fingertips of the other and answer, "Mother Lynn, I am nobody but myself. Do I make you uneasy? Let's examine your fear." Pure Professor Lester, perfecter of charm. If he was in a bad mood, he'd just snarl, "Step off, bitch." And Mom would lean over the kitchen sink and cry into a dish rag. He shaved his head like Michael Jordan. He was a teenager. He had transformed. When we were little, people remarked on two things about us. The first was how we got along so well. Bernie and I never fought because I adored him too much. He told me once he thought we were the same person in two different bodies, and that's why he'd never hurt me. It wasn't that he adored me back. It was that he considered me an extension of himself. The second thing was that we didn't look black, although Bernie came closer, fuller lips, darker skin, flatter nose. Still, most people would guess Bengali or Brazilian when meeting him for the first time, until his voice changed and they heard him speak. Then he would make more sense to them. I remain a question mark. When people ask me what I am, which is not an everyday question, but one I get asked every day, I want to tell them about Bernie. I don't, of course. I just tell them what color my parents are, which is to say, my father is black and my mother is white. People don't usually believe me. You look, fill in the blank. Puerto Rican, Algerian, Israeli, Italian, suntanned, or maybe like you got some Indian blood. But you don't look like you got any black in you. No way. Your father must be real light-skinned. In fact, he isn't. But somehow in the pooling pudding of genes, our mom's side won out in the category of hair. And this is really what makes you black in the eyes of others. It's not the bubble of your mouth, the blood in your veins, the blackness of your skin, or the bantu of your butt. It ain't your black-eyed peas and greens. It's not your rhythm or your blues or your rage or your pride. It's your hair. The kink and curl of it, loose or tight, just so long as it resembles an afro, and ours didn't. That is why when Bernie shaved his head, he started to pass for the whole of one half of what he was. Even more than talking the talk, that was the act that did it for him. My big brother Bernie is a vegetable now. Mom keeps him on a cot in the living room, him and his wires and tubes and bags of fluid and breathing machines and the shit and piss pot. She gives him sponge baths 3 times a week. When I go down to visit, I wipe the dribble from his chin and I think about him, dribbling basketballs, before. Now he has burnt basketball skin, no hair at all, afro or otherwise, half a face. Bernie was tragic long before that, though, because he was too beautiful, and because he was Bernard III. He was a legacy. His looks were more of a curse than a blessing, really. People just couldn't stop staring at him. Our mother put our father through grad school at Berkeley by pawning Bernie off as a child model. He had that third world poster child appeal, that red-brown skin and those soup spoon mud-water eyes. We still have Bernie framed in a diaper ad that hangs in the upstairs bathroom. There's baby Bernie before I came along, a little brown Buddha staring out at you over your morning crap, one fat fist raised next to his adorable face in a gesture of benediction or defiance, depending on how you look at it. I asked our mom to take it down after the accident because I thought it was tasteless, what with him having to wear diapers at night now as a grown man and all. That just made her sniffle and twist the plastic pearl buttons on her nightgown, so I let it go. But he was beautiful, the way a leopard is, or Twilight. My father is black and my mother is white and my brother is a vegetable. When we were small, the vegetable told me stories. The stories began when we moved from the West Coast to the East Coast. I remember elaborate stories under the blankets or in the back seat of the car on the long night trip, the highway winding before us, unfathomably long. The highway is winding behind us. I am 6 and my brother is 7. We are driving cross country from Oakland, where kids like us are a dime a dozen, double dutching on asphalt and breakdancing on cardboard dance floors under helicopter skies. Bernie and me in the back seat with the U-Haul bumping behind, playing hockaloogie flip the bird to the cars in the lanes on our sides. Bernie and me and our ashy knees. Dad is zigzagging up and down America for our education, instead of going in a straight line, because that is what our dad is like. Only PBS and no Barbie dolls. We stop in Salt Lake City, and Bernie steals some salt peanuts for us to share. "Here, Em," he says, and we're crunching them and tossing the shells on the ground. My dad says, "Where did you get those?" And Bernie says, "Huh?" My dad says, "Take them back." And Bernie says, "Why? We already ate half." Mom says, "Do it anyway because they're not yours and stealing is wrong." And Dad slaps Bernie full in the face and says, "No, the reason you don't do it is because that is exactly what they expect you to do." Everyone in Salt Lake City is looking at us. They're flying kites over the windy lake. Bernie takes the peanuts back with 5 fingers on his face, and my mother turns to my dad and she says to him, "I guess they expect to see you hitting your children, too." She goes after Bernie and pets him like a puppy dog. She loves him best. I suck on a peanut shell until it turns soft on my tongue. We stop at Mount Rushmore, and Dad tells us about the big heads, and Mom says, "Isn't that something?" Bernie says, "No. It would be something if you painted some clown faces on them and put a roller coaster in front." And we all laugh because Bernie always makes us laugh. We go to the Badlands, and there is no one and nothing all around, like we are the last people on the earth. The clouds are like long white hair falling sideways. Dad tells us about Sitting Bull and the Sioux and the ghost dances, and Bernie tells me he can see their ghosts dancing real slow over by the hill. And I ask him, "Do they have bows and arrows?" He says, "No, they're crying."